in other houses that could not say that about their father. They did it very, very subtly in the film. My little boy didn't know we were homeless. And in the film, they do it very subtly. There's a scene where the little boy is eating, but the father's napkin, knife, fork, spoon had not been touched. My son didn't need to know we were homeless. He did not need to know that some of the times he ate and I didn't. It wasn't because I wasn't hungry. He did not need to know that some of the times we both ate and got a hotel room, it was only made possible because I had just sold blood. He didn't need to know that. And I say he didn't need to know that because that's what fathers do. And sometimes the best father is a good mama. I know, I had one. There were times, honestly, I let my son spend the night with friends. They had children, they loved them, but I also knew they were going to eat that night. I didn't have money to feed them. I slept under my desk at Dean Witter. I'd get up in the morning, put on a blue suit, a gray suit, and I'd make them 200 phone calls. When there was no place else to go, there was a bathroom in a train station in Oakland, California. And it worked for us for two reasons. It was clean and you could lock the door. Now in the film you saw Will and his son play this game about being cavemen and having to find a cave, someplace to spend the night. I had a game I played with my son. And the game was real simple. The game is called Shh. And that meant that no matter what anybody said on the other side of that door, no matter how hard they pound on the door, we're not here. We're invisible. We lived like that for a year. It took me that long to save the money to get a place for us to call our own. Even after I had saved the money, I would show up to rent properties and people wouldn't rent to us. They make judgments on us. The first thing they want to know is, well, where's the baby's mom? Well, what happened? Well, what's that got to do with anything? I'm gainfully employed, I got good credit, I got the references, I got the money. They wouldn't rent to us. One of my favorite parts of the book, the first book, The Pursuit of Happiness, is the story of my son and I getting our first place to live after being on the streets for a year. I remember going through the hood, Oakland, California. I got my son in the stroller. I got the stroller covered up with plastic bags from the cleaners. It's raining. I didn't want him to get cold and get wet. And I saw a house that was no different than any other house in the neighborhood, but with one exception. There was a rose bush. And I had never seen roses in the ghetto in my life. And I remember thinking, man, this is the most beautiful place in the world. I went over and started talking to this little old man who was outside, and it turns out he owned the property. Mr. Jackson. Told him where we've been and what we've been doing. He cuts me off. He says, son, you ain't got to tell me nothing else. Y'all can move in here. We moved in. Slept on the floor our first night. And this is just one of the ways that issues become generational for children. My son has seen me carry everything we own, everywhere we went, every day for a year. But on this morning, we get up to walk out of the house and I'm not carrying anything. My son gets a little anxious. He says, Papa, you forgot this. We have to bring our stuff. I don't know the words to convey to you what it feels like to be able to say to your son, you know what, son? We got a key now. We don't have to carry stuff anymore. I don't know the words to convey to you what that feels like. The only way I could convey that to you would be if I could levitate myself off of this stage. The lightness of it. I remember this. We both skipped to the train that day. That was a good day. And speaking of the train, it's funny how life can be sometimes. That train station, 2 blocks from our new home, the same train station we used to sleep in. Something else very important started to happen at this train station. They began to open a daycare center, a place called Happiness, and they did spell it with a Y. And what made that so important for us is right now I got a 3-hour commute on a bus and a train to get to the one place I'm comfortable leaving my son, or 2 blocks down the street. The challenge was the daycare center would not take children who were not potty trained. Man, we went to potty training boot camp. That's a major quality of life issue, isn't it not? 3 hours on the bus or 2 blocks down the street. And I told my son, I said, no, son, let's just sit here and talk a while. We're going to sit here till something happens. As we were set up now, we didn't get home till 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. And what that meant in my own neighborhood, what that meant was the ladies of the evening had started their shifts. And for months, these ladies of the evening saw me, this baby, and a stroller. They never saw a woman. They knew something ain't right, something's different here. They started trying to give him candy. And I said, no ma'am, no thank you. I didn't let him have sugar till he was 4 years old. And one day, they started to give him $5 bills. And I will tell you, that were it not for those ladies of the evening giving that baby that $5 bill, there were days I could not have fed him. So to this day, the ladies of the evening are all right with me. Hey, I ain't got nothing but love for them. That don't mean I'm doing business with them. That's not what I'm saying. Hey, that's not, don't look at me like that, right? But you think about that for a second. We didn't have a term to describe something of that nature then. I now know that will qualify. You could call that a random act of kindness. We see y'all here. We know y'all struggling. We don't know what the situation is, and we don't care. Here's $5. Go feed your baby. That was the beginning of us turning our lives around. That, 200 phone calls a day, and a few friends. Got in touch with some friends who hadn't heard from us. They all kind of knew the situation, and they all said some variation of the same thing. How can we help you? Hey man, look, we got an extra bed in the garage. Nobody's using it. You guys come get it. You can have it. We got a card table down in the basement. We don't play down there anymore. Why don't you put that in the kitchen? That could be your kitchen set. Y'all come get this stuff. Now we go get the stuff. We didn't have a car. And I told you, my son today, 6'8", 350, he was an even bigger baby. You see where my hands went? This dude was like the black baby Huey. I could not carry him, the groceries, my briefcase, the umbrella, and all this stuff. So in my old neighborhood in Oakland, there were these shopping carts from the grocery stores that kind of got reappropriated to the community. And you can walk outside my front door, any direction, 2 blocks, you go find this cart. So the joke between my son and I is, that's our car. We'll get the car, we'll come pick up the stuff. We're out one day walking, looking for the cart. The little boy figures we have walked far enough. He comes up and looks me in the eye and says, Papa, where you parked the car? He didn't know. We're in the car one day rolling up the street. It starts to rain cats and dogs. My son looks up at me, he says, Papa, one day, can we get a car with a top on it? He didn't know and he didn't need to know, but I kept making up 200 phone calls and I'm doing it.